Welcome to Eurofins Viracor Clinical Diagnostics Podcast, where I'll be sharing up-to-date scientific advances, key diagnostic testing, and our most recent innovations. Today we are joined by the president of Eurofins Viracor, Michelle Altrich, and our chief scientific officer, Steve Kleiboeker. They sit down for an in-depth interview with Eurofins' own Kevin Foth to discuss the company's history and beyond.
I'm Kevin, a strategic brand manager with Eurofins Viracor, and I'm excited to have Dr. Michelle Altrich and Dr. Steve Kleiboeker joining me in studio today to talk about Eurofins Viracor. Welcome to the podcast, Drs. Altrich and Dr. Kleiboeker.
Thanks, Kevin.
Yeah, thanks, Kevin. Happy to be here.
Happy to have you here. Before we begin, I wanted to congratulate Michelle on a recent certificate of honor from the Industry Era Women's Leaders magazine, where she was noted as a top 10 inspiring woman leader for 2022. In the article, you're noted to be a motivator and inspirational, Michelle. What do those adjectives mean to you?
Thanks, Kevin. It was indeed an honor to receive that award. And I think when we think about motivating and inspiring, we think of it, or I think of it in a couple of different ways. One, when we think about really the changes in the workforce over the last few years, it's really important to be able to develop associates, keep associates engaged, and motivate them to come to work every day and really to believe in the mission that we have here at Viracor. And specifically, we strive to improve the health of critically ill patients every day. And that is something, of course, that in and of itself is extremely motivating to help patients get better. But associates also need to kind of see how does it advance them. Of course, everybody loves to help others, but they also at the same time want to be engaged and see a career future for them. And I think one of the things I really enjoy is those associate engagements and being able to motivate associates every day.
Very good. Let's talk a little bit about the vision and the mission statement of Eurofins Viracor since you brought it up. The vision of Viracor is to be a trusted healthcare leader improving patient lives through innovation, solutions, laboratory services, and partnerships. And the mission of Viracor reads we improve the lives of patients. Those are very powerful statements to me. Tell our listeners, Dr. Kleiboeker, what they mean to you.
Yeah, so the word that really jumps out in my mind, that statement, is the innovation. We seek the new ways to solve problems, whether it's a technological solution or a scientific solution, and we bring that from the laboratory to the bedside, to the patient to help improve their care. I also think about just the patient's lives. It's really humbling to think that we're providing testing that can change treatments, that can modify treatments, that can make important diagnoses for a really critically ill patient population. And then another word that really jumps out at me is the partnership, and that we're not in this just as a provider or just for ourselves. We're really in this for the patients, for the centers that serve those patients, and then for our associates and our team here as well. It is a true partnership from the beginning to the end, and you can look in the faces of our team members. I get to spend a lot of time in front of clients and physicians and nurse practitioners and pharmacists that are dealing directly with patients. And when they sense that we're a partner, when they sense they've got the weight of Eurofins Viracor behind their efforts, it changes the whole conversation. We now are trusted, we're part of the team, and we can make a difference, certainly day in and day out with that sort of an attitude and approach.
Very good. Dr. Altrich, you have anything to say?
Yeah, I would completely agree with what Steve said, and just going on a little bit more about the partnership. I mean, I think our clients understand that they can't be successful alone, but likewise, we understand we can't innovate without those great discussions with our physicians and clients to know what do you need to care for your patients better. And so having that partnership is critical to our success, but I think also critical to advancing medicine to help these patients live longer and better lives.
Really good. I mean, I heard from both of you, innovation, really big, partnership, really big. And somebody had said once, it's really that it's not an accession number on a sample, it's a patient that sample is associated with. And that seems to be kind of the really what's behind this caring, this concern, and what drives Eurofins Viracor to do what we do.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I have the great honor of talking to new hires on their first day here. And that's something we try to drive home from day one of when associates start with us, is that, in our histories, we've all had experiences where we've had a loved one waiting for medical results. And so we can all put ourselves in that situation. And so it is somebody's mother or brother or grandfather waiting, and understanding that it is more than just a sample. It's somebody's life waiting to get better.
Yeah, very powerful. And you had mentioned something with your statement, history. I understand that the Eurofins group is celebrating 35 years in the business with helping people get better, innovating and such. But I also, a little birdie told me that Viracor is actually celebrating 40 years, so a little bit longer in this space than the Eurofins group has been. Another significant celebration specific to the Viracor group is that the recent opening of the new campus in the Lenexa site, combining 3 different buildings, 3 different sites into one footprint here in Lenexa, which is fantastic. And the other intriguing part of that is the fact that Viracor is really moving back to where they started, back into the Lenexa area back in the 1980s. What does that mean to you to come, as the opening ceremony was coming back home, and like that? How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I think it's interesting because when we think about Eurofins Viracor, so we're really a combination of 2 companies. One is IBT Laboratories that was founded back in 1983. And I started with them in 2006, so I know I have more of a history with them. And Steve, you can maybe, when I finish, go a little bit more into the history of Viracor. But in the early 80s, IBT was really instrumental in working, again, innovation really driving the beginning of that company about allergy diagnostics. It was, when we were first starting to understand more about allergic disease and really partnering with some companies to develop blood tests to be able to test for allergy, which I think has really moved the allergy field forward. And we were located here in Lenexa prior to the merger of Viracor and IBT back in 2009 and our consolidation in 2011, then into Lee Summit. But we've called the Kansas City area home for a long time. And really, both companies have a rich history in innovation. I know the same is true for Viracor, Steve.
Yeah, thanks, Michelle. So I, like Michelle, been here a while, joined Viracor in 2005. And at that point, we were a really small lab like IBT when they started out in the 80s. I guess Viracor is about 5 years old when I joined, still a small handful of people. But it was a real energizing and exciting time. We saw an unmet need in viral diagnostics, hence the name Viracor, I think, but we've obviously expanded since then, but saw an unmet need and also saw the opportunity with molecular diagnostics, or PCR, as it became a powerful clinical tool, and we were at the forefront of pushing that out to patients, providing a really rapid turnaround time, a super accurate result, and really expanding the menu on a monthly basis sometimes. But I also think to the time of 2009, when you mentioned the merger, Michelle, and how that brought the immunological expertise from IBT into Viracor. And with that, we've expanded our offering quite a bit and provide some really impactful immunological tests now, really an industry-leading immunological test for one of the most important viral diseases infecting our patients. So it's been a great decade and a half, a little bit more than that for me, of growth and expansion and learning. And I can only imagine what the future holds. I just hope I live long enough to see it.
Right.
You both have a very impressive tenure, both through starting with IBT, starting with Viracor, the merger bringing you 2 together. But sometimes when you've been in a position for a while or in a company for a while, things kind of get old, kind of get stagnant. What is it about Viracor that makes you jump out of bed in the morning, excited to come into work? You want to answer that, Dr. Kleiboeker?
Sure, yeah. So to me, it's the ability to make a difference when the need is there. So COVID is probably an extreme example, but we had a good indication that was really going to be impactful not only to our patient population, but a lot of patients out there and people who were otherwise healthy as well. And so we were able to put up the effort early and really have a major impact on the field. But that's just one example. And we're really good at identifying unmet needs and then acting on those, not just sitting there thinking about it or designing something on a whiteboard that never actually gets into the lab or gets a patient sample tested. So I like the short time from an idea to an action and an impactful action. And then also, to me, getting in front of directly with the healthcare providers and hearing them talk about their patients and seeing the passion and the desire to help on their faces and hearing it in their voices just really energizes my efforts to find better tests, to find better ways to solve problems for those patients and the physicians treating them.
Very good.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think, what really gets me up every morning and why I've stayed committed to the company for such a long time is because I truly believe that we are making an impactful difference each and every day. And one, continuing to drive that forward. Healthcare is always changing, but I know we have a continued role to play as we move and as healthcare continues to evolve. And just, coming to work every day to ensure that we continue to be relevant and continue to help patients.
Yeah, I mean, your enthusiasm, your belief in the company is infectious. You can talk to anybody here in the hallways, and everybody's got a smile on their face, a spring in their step, and an idea in their mind, which is very, very good. And you talked a little bit, Dr. Kleiboeker, about the portfolio of testing options that we have for the clients and for the patients. These range from developing innovative assays to assisting our biopharma partners in the multitude of ways, with breakthrough assay development that leads to tests within the clinical diagnostics area. But Clinical Diagnostics Group, they use a mixture of what's called an FDA 510K cleared assay and laboratory developed testing. FDA 510K cleared assays have undergone clinical trials, a review by the FDA. Could you give us a little bit more information about laboratory developed testing, or LDTs as they're commonly called in the marketplace, and how they play or work together in the clinical laboratory space?
Right, yeah, so the LDT or laboratory developed test is often developed, validated, and then used for patient testing as an effort to fill an unmet need. So while there are quite a few FDA-approved assays out there, there are a lot that are not approved. And even the ones that are approved have some gaps. For example, they may test the common specimen types like plasma or whole blood, but they wouldn't test an uncommon specimen type like CSF or urine, for example. So the laboratory developed tests can be more nimble, they can be more fit for purpose, but they do go through the same, or pardon me, not the same, but a very similar validation process. The only thing that's missing is that they don't get submitted to the FDA for a thorough in-house or an FDA review. The laboratory developed tests are reviewed by the regulatory agencies such as CLIA and CAP. And for us, we submit nearly all of our tests to the state of New York for a review of the validation as well. So there is an extensive external review of these tests, just not by the FDA. And so it does provide a shorter time, again, from an idea to actually an action that impacts patient lives. And it also provides greater flexibility and gap fills, if you will, fills unmet needs that you can't buy an FDA-approved assay for. That said, I've always viewed us as technologically agnostic. Our goal is to provide the highest quality result in the most rapid time for the patient. And so if the best test is an FDA-approved test, we'll use that. We have no reason not to, but in many cases, we look at the FDA-approved test. They don't fit all of the needs, so we go and formulate a solution on our own in our research laboratory and then validate that and transition it to our clinical laboratory.
So how you can make it better.
Exactly, yeah, and that's always the goal. It's not to cut corners or do something with less accuracy, but the goal is to provide the result that the patient needs for their health care.
Yeah, if I could just add on, I think a couple of things. There's various levels of LDTs. And so when we look at how ViraCore has approached it, we've taken the most rigorous approach you can. We are CLIA certified, CAP accredited. So again, that's two separate levels of regulation with increasing levels of complexity and rigorousness of validation. As Steve mentioned, we're also certified by the New York Department of Health. And as there have been increasing discussions about adding regulatory framework at a national level, the New York Department of Health a lot of times is viewed as a model to adopt more broadly. And so, that's something we've identified as being a rigorous one that we want to comply with, because we do think that they have a lot of good standards. We've already adopted that. So I think, when you think about LDT, it is kind of a catch-all, but I think you have to look beyond just an LDT to say, how is the lab that you're looking at and using approaching LDT? And we've taken a very vigorous quality standard in our LDTs because, again, we care about the patients we're serving, and so we always want to do what's best by that patient.
Wow, that was very impactful, very illuminating. Thank you for sharing that. We're approaching the end of our segment here, so I'll give you free time to talk about or discuss anything that you might have that you want to add to the conversation.
Yeah, I can't help but talk about science, but it is a really exciting time to be a diagnostic lab scientist in the field. There's so many technological advances and just knowledge advances that have been developed often in academic labs over the past decade or so. Much of this is NIH-funded research, and they'll define a disease state or they'll define some sort of genetic mutation. But what comes out of that, from our perspective, very often is useful information that can be applied to help patients' lives on a daily basis, not just a research paper or a large multi-center study. And so thinking about the fields of genetics and sequencing, gene expression, coupling that with our current standard immunological diagnostics and viral diagnostics, I think in the future we're going to look at a time when we can combine a lot of this information together, even using advanced tools like in artificial intelligence or machine learning to help us sharpen our diagnostic interpretation. So while we've done a lot in the past and it's really exciting and I think empowering, I don't ever want Viracor or Eurofins to rest on our laurels, because the future has a lot of opportunities, and we really need to, as we've grown, we need to maintain our nimbleness and our quickness to market and the insight that we gain from our patient interactions to help drive that forward and really maintain a leadership position. I think we have set the standard in many ways in the field and the patients that we serve. We just don't want to lose that edge as we move into the next decade.
Yeah, and if I could just add, I think the other important piece of that in looking to the future is making sure we continue to develop a workforce that can kind of gap fill and backfill. In clinical lab medicine, we do have, like many areas, an aging workforce. And so driving home STEM education in getting young people interested in clinical lab medicine as a career, as an exciting science opportunity, I think is critical. And we try to do that in a couple of different ways here at Eurofins Viracor. One is just, working with some of our local universities, but then even younger, one of the great kind of tie-ups we have at the end of April is Laboratory Professional Week overlaps with Bring Your Child to Work Day. And so we kind of combine those with some really fun and exciting activities that we encourage associates to bring their kids, get them excited about science. This past April, we extracted DNA from a strawberry. We looked at some chemical reactions, developing carbon dioxide with, easy things like Mentos and soda. But really, again, to really get that interest in science at an early age, because in order to continue to fulfill our vision and our mission, we need continued workforce interest, continued interest in scientific careers. And so I think that will be critical as well.
Very good, very good. Well, I want to thank both of you, Dr. Altrich, Dr. Kleiboeker, for joining us. Very informative discussion, kind of peeled the curtain back a little bit. Congratulations on your recent award, Michelle. 40 years in the business with Viracor. That is phenomenal in this day and age. The new campus site, and I hope you'll come back and join me in the future to talk more about Eurofins Viracor. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Kevin. It was a pleasure.
Yeah, absolutely, Kevin. A lot of great things to come.
Make sure to subscribe to this podcast and follow us on social media to stay up to date on all the latest information. If you want to help spread the word, please give us a 5-star review and tell your friends and colleagues to subscribe too. We're available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, Podbean, and more. With over 30 years of specialized expertise in infectious disease, immunology, and allergy testing for immunocompromised and critical patients, Eurofins ViraCore is committed to helping medical professionals, transplant teams, and reference labs get results faster when it matters most. ViraCore is passionate about delivering value to our clients by providing timely, actionable information, never losing sight of the connection between the testing we perform and the patients you serve.